Welcome to Discovering. The goal of the Michigan Fish Production Program is to hatch, rear, and transport fish for the management of both inland and Great Lakes fisheries. Those fish include walleyes. Tonight we'll take a look at the process of collecting eggs and tagging fish.
Okay, we're going to take, between today and probably Thursday this week, we're going to take 20 million eggs.
And breathing new life into old boats. We'll take a look at the craft of restoring wooden canoes.
We try to keep the boat as close to original as we can. So we want a boat that is a 1908 to 1910 boat instead of having one that is completely restored. It looks like a new old boat.
So sit back, put your feet up. It's Monday night and time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
A while back, we visited the Thompson Fish Hatchery and found out a bit about raising walleyes.
The walleye, we incubate in this is called a jar battery. This is called a hatching jar.
Tonight we'll do a little backtracking in the process and take a look at where the eggs come from.
In the spring, we'll start off with 12 or 13 million walleye eggs that we'll collect over at Bay de Noc.
Caught up with the DNR crew during a walleye egg collection and fish tagging project on a windy, rainy day on Little Bay de Noc.
Okay, we're going to take, between today and probably Thursday this week, we're going to take 20 million eggs from female walleyes here on Bay de Noc. And Troy over there is spawning females and fertilizing. And we let the eggs sit in those pans for a few minutes and to fertilize, and then we're going to pour them in this bucket, and this bucket's full of a solution of Fuller's Earth, which is a really fine clay that sticks to the eggs and keeps them from clumping up. Without this Fuller's Earth, these eggs would just become a big mass of gelatin. So after we spawn 5 females, we'll have 5 females of pans in this bucket. We'll take this bucket out and we'll put it in that floating net that's in the river here, and they'll water harden. And in that process, the eggs absorb water. And also that net rinses the Fuller's Earth. So we'll just keep 5 buckets at a time, 5 females at a time, taking the eggs out to the net there. We're shooting for 80 or 90 females today. And another 80 or 90 the second day, whatever day of the week that works out to be. It kind of depends on the condition of the fish in the nets, what percent ripe they are. But these eggs go back to Thompson Hatchery where we'll incubate them. They'll hatch in about 25 days, and then they'll go back to rearing ponds all over the Upper Peninsula for rearing until late June or July, when they're about 1.5 to 2 inches long, and from that point they're stocked out in inland and Great Lakes sites all over the UP. you got to keep the eggs in solution and in motion, because that Fuller's earth, it's a really, really fine clay. It's like the consistency of flour. So it coats the eggs. The eggs are sticky when they come out of the female, and they're, you know, in nature they'll stick to a rock, or they'll stick to something on a spawning reef, which is beneficial. But in this situation, there's nothing to stick to but themselves, and if you get eggs that are all stuck together, they'll suffocate and fungus up. So the idea of the Fuller's earth is just sort of an artificial way to coat that sticky egg so that they don't stick together. And what I'm doing here is I'm pouring off the fertilization water that has the milk from the male, trying to keep the eggs from going over the top, and I'm just trying to reduce the amount of water that I add to this bucket of Fuller's earth. The key is just to keep the eggs in motion all the time, just keep them from settling and keep them from sticking. And I keep track of how many eggs or how many females. And like I said, when we get 5 pans of eggs in this bucket, we'll take this bucket out and we'll dump it in that net in the water, rinse the Fuller's earth off, start another bucket. They're bringing those males and females in. They've got 6 trap nets set on various spawning reefs. The field crews are out emptying those nets right now. They're bringing the females back to the access site here and the males, and separating them.
We run a couple boats with horse traps in, as you can see behind me here, and empty all those fish. We scoop net them out into the horse traps and then bring them back here to the landing area here at the Rep River public access site. Go ahead and throw them in some tubs and then let the crews have at it with either spawning or the tagging. We're in late April right now. Everybody knows what the winter we've had with the really cold weather. Lots of snow, lots of ice. March and April have been pretty chilly. Our egg take is later than what an average year would be. Normally we take egg for about mid-April or so. 12th to the 14th is usually the dates that we spawn eggs. This year it's the 29th. Last year it was way late too. People know that the spring was really late. 2012 we were actually 2 weeks early. We spawned fish out on March 29th that year. So it could be some pretty wild swings from year to year, but this year we're late. So we usually wait for the water to warm up. Once the ice goes out on the upper end of Little Wagenack and the rivers, the Takeush, the Rapid, the Whitefish break up, and the sun breaks up the ice along with the wind, pushes some ice out. We set some impoundment gear in the bay, and then we go out and check them a couple times. And when we get enough fish that we think we can spawn, we go ahead and call Thompson Hatchery and Marquette Fisheries Research Services so they can come down and spawn fish and then tag fish. So this year it looks like it's probably going to be a slow, kind of drawn out spawn. We do have right fish in the nets. Females look really healthy this year, look pretty good. So we're pretty optimistic that we're going to get what we need. That usually isn't a problem. So it's good to see. We have a nice range of females this year, size females running from 30 inches down to the lower 20s. So we have many year classes of walleyes out here that are contributing to the population, and so that's a good thing. We like to see lots of year classes out in the bay. The males, they're running anywhere from probably, the bulk of them are probably from about 17, 18 inches up to about 25 or so. They generally run smaller than the females. And of course they're in first. So when we first get out here right after ice out and we check around a little bit to see if fish are in the shallows, we find a lot of males in the shallows usually, and not too many females. So the males come in early. They'll hang out in the shallows, and then when the temperature gets to be, low to mid 40s and the females are ripe, then they come into the shallows and they'll spawn. So we just try and get them with our impoundment gear so that we can take eggs, and that way, all those eggs go back to Thompson Hatchery. We'll get the fry back from Thompson Hatchery for our rearing ponds or else direct plants, and those are the fish then when we grow them up to fingerling size midsummer and we stock them out to inland lakes around the UP. So what we're doing today is going to be a benefit from the east end of the UP to the west end of the UP, Menominee County, up to the Keweenaw. So,
well, we've been tagging fish each year in Little Wagenack since 1988, And from the data we've been able to, of the fish they're taking eggs of, we get the lengths and sex on them, and we record how many of them have the lymphocystis, which is a skin condition that just comes and goes. And then we use the data from anglers. They return the tags to us, so they report the tags, and from that we can find out roughly what proportion of the tagged fish are being caught each year. And a really important piece of information we've gotten is movement patterns of the walleye here. And what we've been able to see is that over time, these fish have, on average in the summertime, they no longer are staying in the inner part of the bay as much as they used to. Back in the 80s, early 90s on average, our tagged fish, we'd recapture them about as far down to Saunders Point. And now the average distance that fish we tag here are caught is roughly like 10 miles south of Escanaba. So a lot of these fish come in here to spawn, but then they move out into the inner portion of the bay, but then a lot of them move well out of the bay and then south of Little Bay Knock and kind of reside out in Lake Michigan. So that's been a big change, and I think that's in good part due to zebra and quagga mussels. They've come in here and clarified the bay so much, and they've changed the behavior of the walleye and the availability of forage within the bay. If you catch a tagged fish, you can report that to the DNR's website. You go to Fisheries Division, and there's a marked and tagged fish link, and you can just click on that and enter the information. We'll ask for your name, address, the date, time you caught the fish, and then we'll use that information and we'll send you a letter that will tell you when we tagged that fish, where we tagged it, how long it's been out there, how long it was when we tagged it, and so that'll help us out quite a bit. We'll have a better understanding of what fish here are doing the rest of the year.
Building a wooden canoe requires a level of craftsmanship I can only imagine. Rebuilding one falls into that same category. We'll be following UP Chapter Wooden Canoe Heritage Association member Craig Kitchen of Marquette through the process of returning a 100-year-old boat back to the water.
I'm a member of the Wooden Canoe Heritage Association, and that's an organization, a national organization, that the whole mission of it is to keep these boats alive, to keep them, the history of them alive, and to restore them so that they'll continue to be around. And right now there's about 20 chapters in the United States and in Canada and England. And we just preserve these boats as much as we can. We were in contact with a individual, Kathy Kloss from Gwyn, who is another member of the Wooden Canoe Heritage Association. She's pretty much an expert on B.N. Morris canoes. So we're describing different things about it, and she finally dated it to someplace between 1905 and probably about 1908 is when it was made. It had some structural problems with it. There was some cracked ribs and some planking and stuff had to be replaced. The canvas was good on it, so at least it would hold the boat afloat, so I was able to paddle it. But with the structural problems in it, we knew the canvas had to come off of it. So last fall I started restoring it and have taken it over to an individual's place, a shop in Boulder Junction, Wisconsin, Dave Osborne. He has a business restoring canoes. Between Dave and myself, we've spent the winter pretty much getting it to where it's at now. And we figured a couple more months and it'll be back in the water. These 4 ribs were completely broken and they had a joint in them, holding them together. And Dave took the ribs out one at a time and replaced them, and replaced the planking here because the planking was also broken. He replaces the ribs one at a time so the boat will keep its shape, and he also puts a brace behind it so that when he shapes the steamed ribs, they'll take on the contour of the boat. What we try to do is we try to keep the boat as close to original as we can. So we want a boat that is a 1908 to 1910 boat instead of having one that is completely restored and looks like a new old boat. So we'd rather have some of the integrity of the old boat with it. if we can do that in any way. And the deck here, this is a mahogany deck, and it would be real hard to replace this deck and have it match the other one. And what Dave did is he fiberglassed the crack that was in it, and he took the bolt out of it, and he put some wood filler in there, and then he clamped it together so it would hold its shape. And so now we'll be able to have the original deck on the boat still. He also replaced the ends, these are the inwales here. He replaced the tips on them because they were all rotted, and then the outer, or the inner stem here, he replaced that too because the tip of that was also rotted. This will all have to be smoothed down and feathered down so it's the same shape as the canoe. And so we'll replace some planking here so there'll be something to staple the canvas to. The wood here was all rotted and cracked from past use, so we replaced that. And then these were all cracked from where the damage was to the ribs, so Dave replaced the planking there too. So in reality, not very much of the planking had to be replaced, which was good. In a place like this is from an old B.N. Morris, and what he tries to do is he tries to use older pieces whenever he can so that it's not as difficult to match the wood. You can see here where the stem was replaced, Dave replaced that because this was all rotted also. And then the planking here will have to be all sanded down so that it's the same shape as the hull. Because when the canvas goes back on it, every bit of this will show up. So it has to be sanded down smooth. We'll check all of the nails and make sure that the nails are not sticking up because they'll show through the canvas. One of the things about the B.N. Morris is they had what's called a cap rail, and you can see the nails from it. And for this one here, it has mahogany cap rails and also mahogany cap rails on the outwales. So when this is finished, you won't see any of the top of the inwale here. It'll all be finished off with a mahogany trim. This is a sailing canoe. I've made a new seat for it, and this has to have a hole drilled in it for the sailing, for the mast to go in. It has to be finished being shaped yet, sanded, and then I'll cane it. Caning is a process where there's a natural wood fiber that what we do is we weave it. We'll run strips across it, strips this way, and then we'll have diagonal ones. And so it's strong, you know, and it is comfortable to sit on, and it also looks nice. The seat is right about here, and then the mast sticks up, and there's a brace that goes across, and the dagger boards go down, and that's what stabilizes the canoe when it's under sail. And then there's also a rudder that goes on the back of it. It'll be interesting to see it all put back together. The way that I got into it was my wife and I moved back to the UP in 1996, and I wanted a kayak, but I couldn't afford one, so I built one. And since then I built 13 kayaks, and I built 5 wood strip canoes, and this boat here will be my 3rd canvas boat that I've restored or reconditioned. And I got into this by, I was at a place called Sylvania Track. This was many years ago, and there was a gentleman walking down the trail, and he had a beautiful red canoe. And it was made by a guy named Joe Saliga in Ely, Minnesota. Now, Joe Saliga, I think he was in his 90s when he died, and he was working in his shop basically up until the time he died. And just a real incredible builder. And I saw the canoe and I thought, it's a beautiful thing. And then at some point after that, I got a chance to paddle one, and they paddle completely different than the new canoes. And there's just a finesse to the canoe, and just the aesthetics of all of the wood together and how it works together. They're beautiful, and that's why I enjoy them. Part of the thing I like about the canoe is its history too. The original owners, they have a camp down in Cowboggum Lake, and they're from Negaunee, and they've owned the canoe since 1947. So, and Mr. Waters was, I think, a Boy Scout troop leader, and so the canoe was used for Boy Scout outings, and it was used for fishing and hunting outings, and so the boat has been used extensively, not necessarily sailed extensively, but fished out of and hunted extensively. There was some pictures of the canoe on the top of a truck on a moose hunting trip to Canada, and I think that was in 1962 or 64. And then there's also a picture of the kids, the Waters kids in the canoe, and that was either 1962 or 1964. One of the pictures was a picture of the original owner, Cliff Waters, and he was paddling across Goose Lake outside of Marquette, and that was taken in 1958. I have to finish cleaning up the wood here so that it all looks natural, and then varnish it.
That's the next step.
That's the next step, is varnishing it. And then, again, all the rails, the inwales have to be all finished out too, so, and then once it's varnished and the hull is all sanded, and then we'll put a coat of linseed oil on the sand, on the planking, and then we'll have it ready to canvas it. And then Dave Osborne is going to canvas it. We put the canvas back on, and then there's a filler that goes on the canvas to make it real sturdy and waterproof. So we'll fill the canvas so that it's smooth, get it all smoothed out, and then we'll paint it. Once it's painted, then we put the cap rails back on the canoe, put the seats and the thwarts back in it, and then we put it in the water.
We'll be checking back in with Craig and following the progress right up till the time the canoe is once again joined with the water. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed watching, and we'll see you again next week right here on Discovering.